welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Mitchell Roberts, and I serve as the Director of Product Marketing at TripleBlind. TripleBlind is a technology company that has created the most complete and scalable solution for privacy-enhancing computation, allowing organizations to combine data and algorithms while preserving privacy and enforcing compliance. We are partnering with CDO Magazine, MIT CDO IQ, and the International Society of Chief Data Officers in a series of interviews. Today, I have the pleasure of talking with Jodi Morton, Global and US Chief Data Officer at KPMG. Jodi, welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here today, Mitchell.
We appreciate you being here. I'll just go ahead and get started. Data science inherently becomes better, meaning less biased and more accurate with more and better data. HIPAA, GDPR, a lot of other regulations have in some ways, I don't want to say hurt, but kind of slowed down the ability for companies to transmit data, making analysis just more difficult in general. And they exist for good reason, but how are you resolving those issues that come along with, kind of just these barriers to kind of doing business the way it has traditionally been done?
So the first thing I would say there is within our data strategy at KPMG, embedded in it is exactly what you're talking about. We need to make sure that we understand law and regulation, regulator expectations, internal policy, in our case, our client expectations regarding data. And so embedded in our policy, in our data strategy, is we've got to get that right every single day of the week. Now, that being said, I am not an attorney. So that's where I work closely with our folks and our internal counsel, as well as folks within our risk management practice. And so as we go through new use cases, we want to make sure we understand, well, what are we trying to accomplish? What's the outcome? Why does it matter to the business? What data do we need? And as you start looking into that data, that's where you'll start understanding, well, gosh, it's GDPR related to data. So what do I need to do? Are there certain things I can or cannot do? Are there certain controls I need to put in place to appropriately protect the data? So identifying early on the use case and the value proposition, that use case, and then drilling into what data do I need? And then understanding, okay, what do I need to take into account regarding the governance, the controls, the access, et cetera. And then making sure that, the folks from your risk management organization and your Office of General Counsel are involved in those conversations. We have a data governance council, and that has representation from our risk management folks as well as Office of General Counsel. We have data governance working groups. They're represented there. We want to make sure that we're being transparent. We're being collaborative. We're trying to drive early conversations. Right now we've got a couple of things going on where we need to get together the right people around the table to talk about what's the value proposition of a certain analytic and what are the things we need to understand and how do we work around them. I'm a firm believer that don't start with no, but let's start with, well, how do we get to yes? So what are the things we need to understand regarding, again, do we need to anonymize data? Do we need to restrict access to, the 3 people in the company that, can have access to it? Do we need to aggregate data? There's different ways that you can go about using some of this more sensitive type data to drive business value. So what are the levers we can pull? So having that again, you're hearing me proactive and transparent conversations with our partners and Office of General Counsel as well as risk, and trying to get those things sorted through first is really helpful. Now, that being said, some of it's really hard. I'm not going to, tell you it's all easy and it's all, rainbows and unicorns every day of the week when it comes to this. But when we get this wrong, it's a big deal, and it takes time and focus away from maybe some of the more strategic things we'd like to do. So that's why it's embedded throughout our strategy. My team is, very familiar with the different types of data that have sensitive, we call it sensitive data, or might have different laws and regulations, policies regarding how you handle it. So let's make sure we get out ahead of that. So we address it early so we can keep moving down the path, et cetera. So I don't believe it's something that's going to go away. I think, as we continue, more and more data is being used in different ways, that there's going to be more whether it's law, regulation, internal policies, expectations of customers or clients that are going to come to bear that we will need to take into account in our data strategy and the operationalization of that data strategy.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And like you're saying, it's not, one size fits all solution. It's take things case by case and really kind of walk through the process of what would it take to make this possible. And paired with the transparency and communication and collaboration that you're referencing, it's not easy, but I think the more we do it, the better we get at it, and the more we can say, okay, this case is similar to that last one we did. Here are some of the things we need to do.
Right. Can you establish some patterns, for example, so you can reuse those patterns? Yes. Absolutely.
And that just, as well as, just continuing to take that approach of combining approaches or kind of staying nimble, staying flexible to different scenarios requiring different practices. So you mentioned GDPR. GDPR and HIPAA have very different restrictions on how that data can be used, and just having those experts in-house and consulting with them often is definitely going to be key.
Yes, absolutely.
So now I want to ask another question. So consulting is a business ripe with data, whether data creation is the purpose or sometimes it's the byproduct of certain business activities. It's an invaluable asset. What is on the roadmap for KPMG to not only manage that wealth of data, but also to put it to work for analytics and data science, including AI and ML?
So, on the roadmap is everything from building out the foundation. So my team and I were responsible for what we call the foundational data assets of the firm. These are the things you want to build once and build at scale. So that, I use the term we want to be able to provide analysis ready data for our folks that are in audit, tax, or advisory that are in the field working with our clients. So I've been with the firm for almost 3 years now, and we've been working to build out that foundation. And that foundation includes everything from having the right team, having the right processes, the governance, the controls, having the data available, as well as the technology platforms. So what is that rich ecosystem of data management capabilities that you need to have in place? Everything from data quality and master data management capabilities to enterprise data lakes and data science tools, et cetera. So it's bringing all those things together in that rich ecosystem. And then making sure you've got the people, the process, the controls, the governance to actually run that on behalf of the business. So we've been very focused on that over the past couple of years, but we are delivering value through executing use cases on those foundational data assets. So some of the use cases that are going on right now. One of the one you'd mentioned earlier, ESG. So, everybody's talking about that. So we've been working to, procure certain types of data sets and bring them into our enterprise data lake so that folks within our advisory practice can start leveraging that data as they work to deliver services and value to our clients in the ESG space. So that's just one example of where we've taken the foundational data assets to provide value to our clients. We have a number of internal use cases where we're bringing together again the data that helps us run the business of KPMG. And making it available to our decision makers. You can imagine over the past almost 2 years since the pandemic has started, we've gotten a lot of questions from senior leadership along all kinds of different lines, including what's going on with our people, what's going on with how we're interfacing with our clients, for example. And so we've been able to bring to bear some new insights, leveraging the foundational assets so that our senior leaders have information that they need to help them lead us through a very, very unusual time in all of our careers, with the pandemic and whatnot. So, I think, again, we've been focused on, building out this foundation and then bringing data and through, whether they're internal use cases or use cases in support of our client facing teams, the data's there, the ecosystem, we've got the metadata, we understand the data quality, we have, a rich ecosystem of data science and analytic tools available as well. So that helps our client-facing professionals get sort of a head start, so to speak, so they're not having to figure out, well, where's the data? Who do I call? What's it mean? Is it high quality? By the way, I need this data science tool over here. No, we're working to build that out. And I say we're working to build it out because we've built a number of things, but I'd like to say we're never done, because there's always going to be new capabilities. There's always going to be new data. There's always going to be new use cases that will drive us to actually continue to enrich that ecosystem, that analytic ecosystem that our folks use.
Yeah, thank you for that. Great answer. And so we mentioned earlier, sometimes there's even data sets for sale now, or, people are paying for the opportunity to use valuable data sets. Does data commercialization play any role in that roadmap we were just discussing? And who should be able to use KPMG's data? You mentioned, it's being made available to leadership teams to make decisions within the organization, but is there a plan to kind of take some of that valuable data and make it available to external parties, kind of a commercialization effort? Or conversely, we've already mentioned, third-party data coming in to KPMG. Can you kind of just explain more around those topics?
Yeah. So, like any company, we've got a ton of data, right? We do buy a good bit of data in the market from third-party data providers. And we use that, and again, we use that to help us deliver services and value to our clients. So again, ESG is an example there, because it's top of mind right now, because we have a lot of work going on in that space, where we've entered into a number of arrangements with several third-party data providers, and we are bringing ESG data inside the four walls of KPMG, and then we are using that data as we provide advisory services, et cetera, to our clients. And so we're really excited about that space. There's obviously a lot of momentum, a lot of interest. So you just pick up the newspaper and you can certainly read about, what's going on in ESG. So there's a lot of interest in the market right now. We have, the data we use to run our own business, just like any company does. Financial data and risk data and, data about our people, et cetera. That data we use we're using it to run our business, and we're, always getting, questions from our senior leadership. Right now we have a program out there called Accelerate 2025, which is our diversity, equity and inclusion related program. And so right now we're working with our chief diversity officer on helping to drive some analytics and insight, so we can better understand, where we are and where there's opportunities, to take action. And, at the end of the day, it all comes down to the data. So the data about, our employees, about the markets we work in, et cetera. So a lot of really exciting work we're doing there. And then we also have the data that we gather in the course of providing our professional services. And that data is governed, by our contracts with our clients. So what can we do or not do with that data depends what the contract with the client says. So we have some work we're doing right now where we're looking at, how could we actually maybe use some of that data to develop new models, new services, that type of thing. But in all of these data, I'll go back to the third-party data as a great example. That is also subject to, what do the contractual terms say? So as we go through and enter into a contract to procure data from a third-party data provider, we need to understand what we can and cannot do with the data. It comes down to, I call it, data governance 101. And even going back to the questions you asked earlier regarding GDPR and HIPAA, what can we do? And so that's why, that whole concept needs to be, a fundamental part of our data strategy to understand, where can I use the data? If I can use the data, do I need to anonymize it? Do I need to restrict access, et cetera? So those things are just so important that you understand as we go through here. So we do have a group of folks that are on my team that their primary focus is, looking at third-party data providers and working to, structure the contracts in a way that, KPMG can get as much value from, from using the data. Can we use it in derivative products, et cetera? So we are constantly, there's new use cases that emerge, and we're constantly looking at ways that we can, get more and more value for our contracts and in providing data and value back to our clients through there.
Well, thank you very much, Jodi Morton, for joining me today. If you're watching, please visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews.
Thank you so much, Mitchell.
Thank you.